you need additional storage space for your home or business, Storage King USA is here to help and provide you with the best storage solution. With dozens of storage facilities across the United States, we have millions of square feet of storage space for nearly any storage need. We've been helping our customers store their belongings since 2003, and we're here to help you store yours too. Contact us today at StorageKingUSA.com to find out more. Absolute Storage Management is a leading provider of flexible management solutions for self-storage facilities. We manage over 150 self-storage across the United States. Since 2002, Absolute Storage Management has been assembling a team of seasoned subject matter experts. From managers to marketing specialists, our dedicated team of professionals is equipped with specialized knowledge to maximize the potential of your facility. Absolute Storage Management offers a comprehensive range of services to ensure your facility operates smoothly and efficiently. From marketing and customer service to facility maintenance and security, we have you covered. Our innovative and impactful technology solutions streamline operations, making it easier for your facility to capture leads, convert them into renters, and effectively manage rent collection. Absolute is one of the few AMO accredited management companies and was one of the first management companies to service SBA financing to owners using third-party management in the storage industry. Absolute understands that your bottom line matters. Our proven strategies and industry knowledge drive profit maximization. Let our track record of success speak for itself. Partner with Absolute Storage Management and experience the difference. Our expertise, reputation, comprehensive services, and proven performance make us the ideal choice for self-storage management. Contact Absolute Storage Management today and let us take your self-storage facility to new heights. Absolute Storage Management, your trusted partner in self-storage management.
A recent 2023 survey of independent self-storage executives, owners, and operators, 82% reported that missing calls at the facility level were their most critical service concern. The phones are still the lifeblood of the self-storage business. From capturing incoming rental opportunities to handling tenant needs, the phones still continue to be a central part of the business. Since 2000, XPS Solutions has partnered with supports thousands of independently owned and operated facilities to handle millions of calls, payments, and rentals. Our innovative technology is instrumental in reducing operating expenses, driving revenue, and capturing five-star tenant experiences for our clients. One facility or 100, no matter how large or small your business is, XPS Solutions is the answer. 80% of calls your facility receives are from existing tenants. These calls are often tenants who want to know their balance, make a payment, obtain a gate code, or know when their lease is up. This can be incredibly time-consuming and detracts from catching prospect calls and renting units. With XPS 24/7 Pay by Phone, you automatically enable the tenant to obtain their balance and make a payment without engaging with a team member or agent. This dramatically reduces time spent on the phone and allows a smooth, self-serve customer experience. The other 20% of your calls are prospect opportunities. For years, software limited XPS's ability to convert and move in a rental from a call. However, now with the new integration into the property management systems, XPS rental experts can take those inquiries and convert callers into tenants in one call. With the XPS Rent Up solution, we directly integrate with many of the leading software management systems to lease up the prospect over the phone. This drives immediate occupancy and customer satisfaction the first time the prospect contacts your facility, while catching those precious leads when your team isn't available. Let's not overlook mobile and the opportunity it presents. Today's tenants need convenient options to engage with your business. XPS Solutions offers the industry's original tenant-facing mobile app, My Store Pal, which allows tenants to obtain their balance, make payments, access code details, store unit details such as pictures and contents, and contact customer service via chat, phone, or email right from the app. My Store Pal directly integrates with the largest software providers and reduces calls while driving a five-star customer experience. And speaking of 5-star experience, XPS Solutions integrates with Birdeye, one of the premier reputation management service providers, to capture positive feedback and customer reviews for every positive phone engagement we handle. This activity drives search engine ranking and ensures you have a regular, relevant, and positive feedback on your online platforms. XPS Solutions. It all happens over the phone. Contact us today to schedule a discovery call to capture what you're missing.
Are you a self-storage owner or operator looking for service providers to help at your facility? Well, the Storage Business Owners Alliance, also known as the SBOA, has you covered. The SBOA is a premier online hub for connecting self-storage owners and operators to industry-leading products and service providers. We provide one-stop shopping for your business with exclusive offers to save time and money. At the SBOA, we believe by coming together, we help owners and operators grow revenue, gain purchasing power, reduce expenses, improve efficiencies, and increase profitability. We also offer many resources such as our conferences and self-storage unlock webinars to help self-storage owners and operators gain the knowledge needed to become more competitive in the industry. To become an SBOA member or to find out more information, please visit www.thesboa.com today. We can't wait for you to join the Alliance.
Good morning, everyone in self-storage land. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is our last episode here for Self-Storage Unlocked. I'm Iris Segan, president of the SBOA, and I'm really excited about our panel today. We had quite the long intro this morning, so I'm going to jump right in. Our topic today is managing calls with clarity, empathy, and professionalism. Very quickly before we get started, I know that many of you have already been active in the chat. Thank you for that. If you have questions for the speakers today, we want to answer as many live as we possibly can. So just put those questions in the chat and I'll jump in as often as possible and try to get those questions answered for you. If for some reason we don't get to your question, we will follow up with an email. So everyone who is registered, we have your email already, and we'll follow up with you. We'll also be asking poll questions throughout. You'll see it on the ticker down below, like we have a ticker going right now. And we'll also put the poll questions in the chat. Please do take a moment to just answer those poll questions. There's only about 4 of them, and it helps us get to know our audience better. So I am going to just jump in and get started. First up, I am going to introduce one of my, well, all of these people are my favorite people in self-storage. We have Dave Cooper from Storage King. Hi, Dave. How are you?
I'm great, Iris. Hi, how are you? And thank you for the invite.
Well, it's great to have you. Thank you for joining us. If you would just tell everybody quickly who you are, what you do, and what you think about answering calls.
Sure. My name is Dave Cooper, Director of Operations with Storage King USA, based out of Southwest Florida. Been in the industry about 34 years, and it's amazing at just how the customers' expectations have evolved over the decades since I've started in the industry, and how we've gotten to where we are today. But it's certainly something that demands our attention whenever we're answering calls, and you have to be ready for the unexpected. So it's every day is a new challenge. You never know what you're going to get, and you're just going to be prepared for it. So excited to dive into this conversation with these other great panelists.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dave. We'll see you back in a minute or two. And next up, I have Chris Field. Hi, Chris. How are you today?
Hey, Iris. I'm great. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you here. You're our newbie here on Self Storage Unlocked. So tell everybody a little bit about you and what you do at Access Self Storage.
Sure. So I work for Access, an operations manager. We've got 32 locations on the East Coast, from the Jersey Shore to the Maine coast. And, we kind of oversee everything. We're jack of all trades in our operations department. So we monitor a lot of calls and train on a lot of calls, and got to show a lot of empathy these days.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it.
Well, great. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you back in just a minute or two.
Thanks.
Next up, we have Grace Toddy. Hi, Grace. How are you?
I'm well. Good morning, Iris.
I think everyone probably knows who you are, but just for the few who don't, please tell them a little bit about you and what you do over at Absolute Storage Management.
That's a really scary thought. Is that a good reputation or a bad reputation?
Well, we all know it's a great reputation, and your smiling face is always welcome.
I hope that doesn't change after this call. My name is Grace Toddy. I work for Absolute Storage Management. Absolute Storage Management is one of the third-party management companies available for owners who are looking to exit the daily operations of their facility. Specifically, I oversee two primary components of the customer's experience. And so I oversee the marketing department and the sales center department as well. And I just love that, because you asked, what do I think about taking calls, as kind of that intro question. In my seat in the company, I think it's a really great opportunity for us to create and control the property's reputation in the local community. And that's ultimately a huge decision point for customers who are choosing a storage facility, is what is that reputation. And so I'm excited to be here today. I'm excited to share what I've learned and what I am continuing to learn about the customer's experience.
All right. Well, thank you. We'll see you back in a couple of minutes. Can't wait to hear from you some more. And last but obviously not least, we have Shannon from XPS Solutions. How are you this morning, Shannon?
So good. Thanks for having me, Iris.
Well, thank you for being here. You really helped us put this all together today. And just tell everybody a little bit about you, what you do over at XPS. And, this was your topic. Tell us what we're going to accomplish today.
For sure. So my name is Shannon. I'm with XPS Solutions, and we are, I like to say, the premier self-storage call center here in the industry. And, you asked what is the kind of the purpose and what are our thoughts on taking calls? And I wouldn't be remiss if I don't say what I always say, which is, first and foremost, please answer the phone. Just beginning with, please do it. But today's topic is something that's really close to our heart too. And I think Dave touched on this as well, but having a little empathy in this day and age it's a big deal. And it is something that I think we want to make sure that we get the word out in the whole industry, so that we give self-storage a good name. And we always say a rising tide raises all ships. And so if we just all do this well and treat our tenants well, then we leave people with a really good impression of what we do around here.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful philosophy. I'm going to bring everybody back up. There we go. And so I'm going to just get started a little bit with our panel questions. So let's start with a little bit about just understanding the changing tenant demographic. How have you seen the primary tenant demographic shift in recent years? how does that affect how we handle customer calls? Chris, I'll start with you.
Sure. So we've seen our demographics get a lot younger
Mhm.
and a lot more demanding or hand-holding. And they don't like to dial us up on the phone. So we really try to meet them wherever they want to be met, whether it's through email and the website, or web chat, or texting. Wherever they want to meet, we are there and ready to meet them.
Where do you find that they like to meet the most?
Texting. The
Texting.
most response is from texting. Absolutely.
And my guess too. What about you, Shannon?
Yeah, for sure. That I would say be available for all of those methods of customer support, and especially for taking payments. Let them do it from their phone, for either an app or on your website, or better yet, just get them on auto pay to begin with. The fewer touches, the happier people tend to be in general. But agree, yeah, the demographic is definitely shifting younger, and the way that they want to communicate is different. I would say, looking ahead to the future, I think video is going to be coming on strong with the way, I mean, nobody just talks to their mom anymore. It's FaceTime, right? We don't just have a phone call in business anymore. It's a Zoom. And so when people do want to talk, I think that as we make it more and more and more tech centric, people crave that personal connection and being able to see them. So I expect video to be a big portion of that.
That's a great point. And Grace, what unique challenges do you think, different demographic groups present when it comes to phone interaction?
Yeah, I really echo everything that Shannon and Chris said about the way individuals want to talk to us is shifting. We haven't seen changes in like where proximity of where our current customers are. I looked at this year compared to years past, and most of our customers, 53%, are still within 4 miles from the property. Most of them, like the gender breakout is the same, but it's that age brackets that are shifting, and they're shifting down. So larger percentages that are younger, which is why folks want to communicate in different kind of non-traditional methods.
Mm-hmm.
And so technology is like just having the systems that allow you to have a video call instead of just a phone call is a challenge. We're also seeing higher demands for different languages too. So making sure that our internal call center is staffed accordingly, and that there's technology that can route those calls when somebody needs a different language. And it's not always a traditional language that you might need.
That's a great point too. What about you, Dave?
That's a great question. I think the challenge for us is dealing with these different expectations from your clients, right? I mean, we have that demographic that is still craving customer service, and they're finding it more and more increasingly difficult to get. It's amazing how little effort it now requires to stand out from everyone else in the spirit of customer service. And for those people, it's offering to hold their hand, invite them to the facility while they're on the phone, and walk them through the process. So, I think they're craving that extra attention. And then you have that other demographic that really just wants to be left alone. They'd rather go it alone. And, the post-COVID client, if you will, that wants to self-serve. However, I find that when they do need assistance, they don't want to wait for it. They want it here and now. And you're probably going to get the request via email or text message, or through a video agent, if you will, or some sort of FaceTime mechanism. And they're looking for immediate answers and resolution. So the challenge for us is to balance what the customer's expectations are, whether they want to have that hand holding and be invited to come in and tour the facility, or whether they just want you to send everything to them in a text message and be waiting in the wings for any questions that they may have. So it's a little bit of a balancing act dealing with it. I find that the older I get, the younger the customers are getting. And it certainly seems like text messaging is becoming more of the norm as far as communications these days.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And then that brings us to the clarity in communication. I like how Grace touched on, different languages being important. That's obviously going to make clarity a very big factor. What are some strategies besides that, of course, that ensure clear communications during difficult calls, especially when explaining complex policies or procedures? Dave, I'm going to go straight to you with that one because I already know your answer and I love it.
Well, my answer is don't have complex policies and procedures. Try to make them as simple as you possibly can for your customers and make them easy to understand. When you have to manage a difficult call, start by stopping, right? Stopping everything else that you're doing and truly listen to the customer. They say that most people, when they're listening, they're not truly listening. They're subconsciously listening while they're doing 5 other tasks. And if you have a difficult customer, stop and just start listening to the customer, right? Then provide a clear answer or advise that you'll research and respond with a clear answer once it's available. If you still can't get that clarity out through the phone call, invite them to the facility. Invite to show them whatever it is that may give them the resolution to the issue that they have. But I think the easier that you can make your policies and procedures, the less conflict or confusion you'll have from your customers.
Absolutely. Shannon, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I love that, Dave. It's actually the first time I've heard it put in that way, that the first thing to do is just stop. I think that's a really, really good idea, and agree with, making sure things are simple. Here's the thing that's not simple is that sometimes I want what you don't want to give me. And that is simply a difficult situation. It's not a complex policy. It's just sometimes it's really hard to be the bearer of bad news on that, right? I am so sorry. No, is a difficult conversation. And so I would say, train to that. Make sure that your team, whoever is answering that phone, knows somebody is going to call you mad because they got a price increase, right? Make sure they're trained, make sure that they are ready for that conversation, make sure that they have 5 things in their back pocket where they can say, Grace, I appreciate you calling. I want you to know that while we did have to increase it, and that is standard in the industry, I personally called the location down the street yesterday and theirs is still $20 a month higher. So I want you to know you're still in the right place. As opposed to, I didn't realize anybody would ever call me to give me pushback. Those are 2 very, very different things. So training on that, I think, is a lot of it, and knowing your worth. And I think, that applies in every area of life. But as a manager of a self-storage facility, absolutely knowing that we are worth every penny that we just charged you and being confident in that it's going to help them. It's going to go a long way.
Absolutely. Chris, how do you train your staff to adapt their language and their approach for tenants who may or may not be familiar with the self-storage processes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's really a lot of lather, rinse, and repeat. We have a software that records all of our phone calls. So we have a database of good, bad, and terrific calls that we lean on. And we have meetings all the time, reviewing the calls with the staff. How would you handle this? What would you have done in this situation? And really pinpointing every role play has actually happened. And to us, it's been a lot more effective to do a live call rather than role playing back and forth. There's definitely a time and place for that, but we feel like live situations with real calls that we can prove happened really increases the buy-in for staff training. And we have to leave a little room for everybody to put it in their own language, because as Shannon said earlier, the confidence that you have in a phone call can really be, heard and seen, and you just need to be able to put it in your own language so you have a better understanding of what you're trying to convey.
That's wonderful. And Grace, does Absolute do something special as far as, helping train their employees with those processes as well?
Yeah, I don't know if it's special per se, but we really rely on clarity within our documentation, like a training document, so that, to Shannon and Dave's point, our team members who are handling the call, whether it's a sales center agent who's handling that rollover or after hours, even staffed hours call, or it's our team member on site, like to Shannon's point, what tools does the team member have to handle that call? So what knowledge do they need? Whether it's, we just sent out existing customer rate increases, and we need to know our rates compared to the competitors' rates so that we can best navigate that call. Or it's like there's a catastrophe that happened. What's the process and how do I come alongside and help that customer? So how can I tell them what their next steps are, because I already know those steps. But really, I think the other piece to the puzzle is making sure that the agent, again, whether that's the property team member who's handling the calls, or if you outsource calls, or if you have an internal sales center or call center, making sure that they are equipped with, we call it second level thinking, because we're the experts. A person who is calling me is emotional, they're frustrated, they're like, they're not aware of what options they have. And so second order thinking is, customer calls me and they want to move out. I need to figure out why. I need to get to the root of the issue of the call and then try to solve the issue, which sometimes is a better solution than what, Shannon, to your point earlier, sometimes they call and say, well, I want you to give me $2,000. The answer to that's going to be no. Let me get to the root of why you want $2,000, because there probably is a middle ground here. Maybe it's not financial, maybe it is, that we can still find a solution. But until I figure out the why, so until my agent knows how to have that conversation and ask specific, we call them like take me back questions, exploratory questions that help guide a conversation, that the agent can then get to the why are you calling me? What's the issue that we're trying to solve? Then it's just a more productive conversation, and everybody leaves feeling heard and theoretically a little bit happier with the solution.
Grace, I'd love to piggyback on that too, because one other thing that I would say is, in our industry, we're unique in that a lot of times people need storage, or they need something to do with storage because of a not great thing that's going on in their life, right? And sometimes they're going to come at you with that intensity from that. Often they're not, though, right? They may come at you and present as completely calm and practical and rational, but they have a heavy burden on them. And so, one of the things that we train our team is to be helpful, friendly, and kind in all circumstances, but to add empathy when someone does share, I'm going through X, Y, and Z, right? And that could be at the move-in process. It's the reason they need storage. Or it could be, I'm not going to be able to make my payment on Friday. Responding in kind when that makes sense. Like if someone calls you and says they want to move in because their grandmother passed away, you don't go, oh, sure, I can help you with that. Right? Like that's a kind thing to say, but that is not a kind delivery of those words in that circumstance, right? And it's the same thing if somebody comes at you and they are really, really, really up here. Sometimes we have to respond with helpful, friendly, and kind, sort of keep that in the middle, not too high, not too low. And those are nuanced trainings, right? And sometimes there's just emotional intelligence that kind of has to come into play.
That's a great point, Shannon. I mean, just that response, you can say the same sentence and show empathy better in that situation, where I can just bring my tone down and display like I'm actively listening to you. One of those buzzwords, active listening. Active listening in that scenario would be like, I'm so sorry. How can I help you today?
Right. Yeah, definitely. And that brings us to our next subject, which is empathy in action. And Dave, I'm going to turn to you. Can you share some examples of how empathy has helped diffuse a tense or challenging customer interaction?
I probably could give you a couple. It's quite often that we will get the customer increase notice, and quick short answer that we have for our facility teams to work with is, when you get those calls, obviously have some empathy to the customer and say, obviously everyone's expenses are going up. Ours are no exception. listen, I don't think I can get this increase to be completely dismissed, but maybe there is something I can do to make it work more within your budget. What do you think would be fair? And I'd be happy to have that conversation. And we'll do that if a customer pushes back. And and usually when you take that approach with a customer, they're taken aback, and then they hadn't given it really any thought to what would I accept for an increase. So it makes them pause and think of usually the knee-jerk reaction is zero, right? Don't give me an increase. But once you set the ground rules of, listen, I don't think I can avoid passing along an increase, but I'd be happy to go and negotiate something that'd be more within your budget. More often than not, they'll come back usually with about half of what you're proposing. And sometimes that's not necessarily a bad thing, particularly if that customer is already above your current standard rate for that unit type. So that would be one of them. But I do have a specific example that happened to me probably 3-4 years ago. I was working at a facility, and the manager had stepped out to show a storage unit. The phone rang while I was there, so I answered it, and the customer on the other end of the line was beside himself. He had been a customer for a little over 3 months at one of our competitors right up the road, and he had just received a rate increase notice. And he was completely put out by the fact that he had only been there for about 90 days, and how dare they hand him over a rate increase, and it was probably 40-something%, I think he said. He said, I'm absolutely not staying here. They disclosed nothing about this to me. How much for a 10 by 10? And I stopped him. I said, sir, here's the price of our 10 by 10s. I'd love to have your business. But that being said, sir, listen, I just want to disclose on the front end, what you're going through right now is really considered standard practice in the industry. And again, while I'd love to have you here, most likely the same thing will happen, maybe not at 3 months, but we also give increases, and you would experience that here as well. And he paused for a minute, not knowing what to say. And he said, had I known that on the front end, I probably wouldn't have never called you, because I'd still be here at Cube Smart. But at least you're telling me, so I'm still going to come and rent with you. And about 20 minutes later, he walked through the door and he rented a unit. And he was completely okay with the fact that we're going to give him an increase because, well, I just told him about it on the front end. And not that you're required to, but he asked specifically. And I think if you're honest with your customer, it's obviously important, right? You always want to be truthful, even if it's not the information that you want to deliver. I think that carries a lot of weight, and it goes a long way with the customer. And this is a perfect example of where it did. He came in and he still rented and was a happy customer, even though I told him that we were going to do the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people definitely appreciate that kind of transparency. Knowing what to expect can diffuse all of that anger later, because they're like, oh, yeah, he did tell me about that. Right.
That's right. Absolutely.
Chris, do you have any examples like that?
Yeah, it's a little different, but definitely some empathy in this story. So we had a customer. His name was Joe, and he was at one of our locations for about 30 years. And he had 3 units, and one of them had just been auctioned. We had reached out to him, twice a week for the proper amount of time, and he never got back to us. And one of his units ended up selling at auction. And I was there, and it was after the auction. And he showed up unannounced, and he was upset and angry. And he came storming in the office, yelling and screaming. And I tried to bring him aside and said, Joe, I'm sorry that, your unit was sold at auction, but we had reached out to you. What can I do? What can I do? And he said, if you don't stop this auction, I've got a gun in one of my units, and we're going to take care of it. And I said, okay, Joe, well, the auction is sold, but I can't have threats like that. I want to help you with what we can here. And, I had, as Grace said earlier, I had to get to the root of it. It turns out that he wasn't upset that the unit was auctioned. He was upset that his pictures from his children, his son who had passed away, were in Unit 1. And it took me about 40 minutes to get him there, to tell me, because it's hard. It's hard to ask for help sometimes. And that's a really challenging situation. But after 40 minutes and, basically being threatened with my life for a storage unit, we had a nice cry together. And I told him that his pictures aren't going anywhere. The winning bidder usually doesn't want any pictures, so we're going to get your pictures for you. And so I got the former tenant's info to the winning bidder for the pictures, and that was all settled. And 3 days later, I had to call them and say, "Okay, Joe, well, now I need you to move out of your other 2 units, of course, because you were storing a weapon in the one." And he did. He did without an issue, because we got to the bottom of it, and we had a nice cry together. And that was a hell of a day.
That is a roller coaster.
Right?
Goodness. And kudos to you for staying calm during all of that and actually getting to the root issue, because that could be very scary. I could see it escalating very quickly, and depending on who's handling the situation. So
I mean, I'm sure I panicked. I blocked all that out.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I think, though, that echoes back to one of your earlier questions, Iris, about like, how do we empower our team members to handle these conversations well? Chris knew the tools that he had at his disposal were to figure out the why. And then he knew that he can't give the buyer's information to the unit owner, but he could give the unit owner's information to the buyer with consent. And so I think some of those procedures and tools, I think that as owners who might be listening right now, or even property managers who are listening right now, ask what tools you have to diffuse that conversation. Because if I didn't know that was an option, I've got this information about this situation, but I don't know how I can resolve it. And so as owners, we have to make sure that our team knows how they can resolve this.
Yeah, exactly. Shannon, do you have another example to add?
Well, we're in an odd situation here because we don't own and operate, right? We are always third party, and almost anything that comes up, we actually need to escalate it to a manager or, something like that. And I always kind of laugh looking back. Sometimes our empathy can be in different areas. So we actually received a phone call one time from someone who said they were in their car and the manager was on the hood of their car with a baseball bat. And we, first of all, I still to this day can't figure out why they called the store number rather than calling 911 in that situation. But, just hanging in there with them through escalating that to one of our supervisors, who's then calling. And they at first they misunderstood. They were like, "Somebody's on your car at the facility. We'll call the manager." And she was like, no, it's the manager. And so finding someone else that we could call. But, just trying to keep that calm and letting them know what we could do, right? Obviously from Texas, it's, can't do anything in the physical on that, but also advising, I'm going to go ahead and say, you should hang up with me and call the authorities right away, but, know that we're going to escalate this on your behalf as well. So listen, we joke about what those issues or situations can be, but sometimes they can be extreme. We've had other situations where someone called because the gate crunched their car. This is not a happy camper, right? Now, was he tailgating into the facility? He sure was, and the guy in front of him stopped, right? But that you just when you're starting with someone who's just really, really unhappy, and getting them to a, okay, let's move this to the next phase kind of part of the conversation. It's all the time. It's all the time. And we have 100 different people who are doing that at any given time. So that just comes down to constant training on that. And I would say hiring too. Ask questions during an interview process that give an indication to you of whether this is a person who naturally has some empathy. Tell me about a time where a really hard thing happened at your work and what you did to resolve that. And listen to what they thought was really hard, right? Because sometimes the answer lies in them saying, okay, well, this really hard thing was my manager was so mad because I was late the third time that week. Right? So knowing what they think is hard is part of that deal, but also, really truly listening for that natural reaction of helpfulness and kindness is a really good place to start when you're looking for people who are going to be in customer facing roles for your company.
Absolutely. But we did get a comment from Hannah. I thought this was really good. She asks all of her auction buyers to turn in any personal paperwork or photos when they buy a unit. And she said 95% of them have no issues with bringing those items to the office. I think that's a great idea, Hannah.
Yep.
Nice.
And then we have a question from Jennifer. She said, what would be a good response when a tenant says they are moving out because of the rent increase? I think Dave addressed that a little bit already. Anyone else have some suggestions?
I love what Dave said about asking the tenant, what will it do to keep you? Because quite frankly, it makes them kind of put the first stake in the ground from the negotiation standpoint. For sure. Again, I think as owners, we need to make sure that the team is empowered with tools, that they know what is their threshold, so that we can, the key is to resolve the issue the first time we have to talk about it, so that it doesn't have to be this prolonged process. That's how we can really service our customers well. And so making sure that the team member who's handling that conversation knows, okay, I'm allowed and I'm approved to knock down their rate increase by $5, or whatever maybe the gap is from what they were paying to what they're going to pay. I'm allowed to go 25% off without having to get approval. And so if they say, well, I can't pay this, but I can pay a portion of it, being able for that property manager to say, okay, that sounds great. I can do that right now, and we can retain you.
Yeah, Grace, you make a great point, because you don't want to give away the farm if you don't have to. They might only be asking for you to listen and consider it and give them a couple of dollars off.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Or understand it too. I think part of it is like, the reality is our property insurance rates have increased. Like, our expenses at the properties have increased. And so telling your team members why our existing rate increase is happening right now and bringing them in on some of the strategy, I think is also helpful, because they are more empowered with knowledge to have that conversation.
Yeah,
Definitely. Shannon, did you want to add anything there?
I 100% agree with what Grace just said. I don't know. Every time she talks, I just nod. Anybody else?
Yep.
I do the same for y'all, so it works out well.
And actually, I'm going to point back to what Dave said earlier. I actually really loved the human approach of it, to say, I hear you. I hear your expenses are going up. We're human too, and our expenses are doing the same. Because I think, in my personal life, I own some real estate, and it seems that people don't think of the owner as a person. Also, they think of like corporate entity with these deep pockets, and they don't know in a lot of cases, like our self-storage operators, this is their livelihood, and this is everything that they have, and cost increases matter. I don't know about anybody out there, but I think insurance is getting a little more expensive these days, and you're writing some bigger checks. And unfortunately, that means that the value, of those individual units is going to go up. But Dave's approach of saying, I hear you, just like your expenses are going up, so are ours, right? And just owning that, to me, I felt immediately diffused when he said that. Like, I hadn't thought of that. You're right. Of course, your expenses are going up as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I love when he said to ask them what they think would be fair. And it reminds me a little bit of when I was a kid and I'd get in trouble and my parents would say, what do you think your punishment should be?
Iris, I'll say to Chris's point, more often than not, what the customer thinks is fair is probably more than they're probably willing to pay a higher rate than you were willing to concede to. So
Right.
let them put that stake in the ground, as Grace said, because it's probably a higher number than where you were willing to go.
It's a great
Exactly. Just like when, you get asked what your punishment should be, it's usually worse than whatever your parents were going to tell,
My mom did that one time, Iris, and I was like, I learned my lesson.
I fully contend that if you have empathy, there is no reason why you should not be able to succeed in the self-storage industry, because it's such a unique industry, right? I mean, I say this to everybody, self-storage is event driven. An event occurs in someone's life and they need storage. So when you're at that storage facility, when that phone rings, you're not trying to sell somebody something that they don't need. They called you. And when the event occurs in their life, whether it's a death, a marriage, a building a home, selling a home, whatever it is, the event occurs, the need arises, they're going to satisfy the need. So when that phone rings, that person is going to get storage. It's just a matter of, are they going to get it from you or are they going to get it from someone up the street? And to Shannon's point, she spoke on something that was so important. Take note. You know, we have a script that we use not only to deliver information that we want to make sure we're getting out, but to collect information as well. But we also have a blank place for notes. And maybe it is, again, whatever the event is, chances are it's a good chance it's a life-altering event for the customer. It could be a death in the family or whatever it is. And make a note of that, because I may not be the person behind the counter when you come in for that space, and it might be my associate. And gosh, it's so comforting when you come into a facility and you say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I called about a 10 by 10, and they immediately say, yes, Dave, you called about a 10 by 10. Your mom had passed away. I'm so sorry. My condolences. Let me see if I can take you out to that unit. And you're going to set your tone and your demeanor to what that life event is for that customer, right? You already have that inside scoop because somebody took a note. Use that to your advantage. And if it's a happy occasion, you're getting married, you can set that tone when they come in, and you're already creating that bond and that relationship with that customer before they ever even sign on the dotted line. So pay attention and listen to what the life event is, because as a sales associate working at a facility, it's just another phone call. It's just another rental. But gosh, it's so much more to the person on the other end of that call. And listen, right? Plug into what's going on in that person's life, and you can have a customer for life. So
and I'm going to take that a step further, Dave, and say that person is less likely to call you when you send them a rate increase later.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Great point.
And more likely to leave you a review, more likely to become your word of mouth, which is your cheapest referral source. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, again, just keep that in mind when the phone rings. Is a good chance it's a life event, right? Nobody says, honey, let's go out for dinner in a storage unit.
No, you're absolutely right.
I mean, something happens, and so the hard part's over. You're not really selling. You're just getting them to rent from you versus your competitor, because they're going to get it.
That's a great point. We do have a question again from Garrett. How do you balance attrition rates with customer service versus new tenant acquisition?
That is such a good question. Yeah, I feel like
Shannon, you want to start?
Well, I want everyone to know, and I don't know if everybody does, but 80% of what we see is not a sales opportunity, right? So most of your interaction is going to be with people who are already tenants for you. They're already yours to lose, so to speak. And so that customer service is so important. Everything Dave said about, making sure that you're there to receive that sale that they're trying to hand you is so true. But it costs you so much more to acquire a new tenant than it does to keep a tenant that you already have. So use that 80-20 rule to your benefit there, and just know if you're having a conversation with an existing tenant, that's an opportunity to service them, to keep them happy, to keep them longer. If every tenant you had stayed just 2 more months, it would make a difference to your bottom line.
Yeah. And another easy one to do is your homework. Before you do the rental increases, please do a rent comp report. Please have a system like Veritech in place that can tell you where everybody else's rates are. I mean, it really helps you explain to the current customer what's going on. Now, we guarantee our rate for the first year. So we've automatically got through some of those hurdles, and we really only do rental increases every 11 months thereafter. We're looking to keep our tenants, as Shannon said. I think our average length of stay is about 26 months right now.
Wow.
So we really are looking.
That's fantastic.
Keep them happy, and our owners know that we're making money. They're good by what we're doing for them. So we try to keep the increases reasonable, between 6 and 10%, because we know that the big guys have an advantage in size, but we also know with the local feel and how we can adjust on the fly for the tenants. We can beat them at their own game.
Yeah, I would just add to that, Garrett. You need to know what your normal churn is, because you're going to have move outs. To Dave's point, our product is need based, and Chris, I want to know your secret sauce of how you have 22 months of length of stay. That's significantly higher than what we're seeing, but it's just because it's need based. I believe it's need based. And so my house gets built, I don't need it anymore, I'm going to move out. So know what your normal churn is, and then measure if you have done maybe some aggressive rate increases or are planning to do, measure what the difference is. Did it increase? Did it stay the same? What did that increase happen with your churn? We as a company have different teams that handle these different processes. So we have a revenue management team that handles our current customer rates, as well as using Veritech. To Chris's point, we use Veritech, which is a pricing tool that tells us what our current rates could be. And then we also have a marketing team that handles pulling in new leads and maybe turning on more advertising if we need to increase the lead volume. But making sure that all of those teams talk to each other is really, really important. So if we're seeing extra churn because we adjusted how often or how aggressive our current rates increases were, and we need to work a little harder to get them in. You also just need to recognize that some of it is navigating through economic headwinds. Personally, we see that our current customers have more value than a new customer, just because of the way that our street rates are based on where our GPI had been and where we are today. And so understanding, and again, training your team, it is more important that we keep our current customers. Both are important. Don't hear me say that renting new customers is not important, but the customer value of a current customer is much higher. So if we need to waive that entire rental increase to retain the customer for 5 more months, and I don't know, maybe offer them, I'll waive that rate. And if you prepay for 6 months, I'll give you the 7th month free. Just understanding what are the needs for that property, and clearly communicating that with the team, I think, is how you kind of balance that.
Definitely balance is key. We are already getting short on time. I'm going to skip down to some of our other questions here. Talking about building long-term relationships through call management. Kind of talking about that with Chris already. 26 months per client is just amazing. How can facilities use phone interactions to build that trust and long-term relationships with tenants? Shannon, do you want to talk about that?
Be good at what you do. I don't know any other way to say that. Like, if you tell someone, sure, I can help you with that. I mean, for the love of all that is holy, know how to navigate to that on your screen. Be able to do it quickly and efficiently while you're having a conversation with them. Don't leave them hanging with dead air while you run on. Don't put them on hold. Standard, like, kind things to do, and then just be really good at it. And if you're not, and in this note, obviously we're talking to a lot of owner operators here. But just a note for you, if you are a manager or if you are someone who takes these calls, if you find yourself feeling uncomfortable in those situations, I am begging you, practice. There is not a skill that can't be learned. You can learn how to click back and forth quickly between your unit, your space mix, or your price list, or your availability list, or get into their account really quickly. Sometimes those just come with time, right? If you're brand new and today's your first day, you get a little bit of a pass. But I'm going to say, if you hang up that phone and you felt like you couldn't get there fast enough, practice. Do it 5 more times really quick when nobody's on the phone, so that the next time somebody calls you, again, there's that confidence. I'm going to go right to it. I know exactly what I'm clicking on. And there's a lot to that. Again, when you're portraying that out to the people who are on the phone, I know what I'm doing and I can help you, goes so far.
Exactly. And I think what Dave said earlier too, about just making sure you're not doing anything else while you're talking.
Yeah.
Stop everything else and pick up when you pick up the phone. We all like to be proud of multitasking and our ability to do it, but it can really diminish how someone feels when you're talking to them. So I think that's really important. Chris, do you have any follow-up strategies that you recommend after a challenging phone call to ensure customer satisfaction?
I would say that you want to focus on the training of the employee at that point. Sometimes in an office, we see employees getting involved with a customer with some difficult issues, and I want to see what they're going to do. I don't want to overstep. I just want to see, and if they need a safety net and I need to grab them at the end, I will. But otherwise, I want to see what they will do, and it's mostly feedback and follow up, and as Shannon said earlier, practice makes perfect. So really discussing these issues that everyday folks are dealing with all the time. I always tell our employees, we are psychologists without the degree and bartenders without the booze. And I'm sorry for both of those things. But that's where we need to be. We need to just listen. And sometimes I bite the inside of my cheek, literally, when I'm on the phone, to stop myself from jumping in and breathe. These are they're just really simple things that you just need to have either a Post-it note around that says breathe or listen. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And then let's just talk a little bit about adapting to industry trends. Dave, what future trends do you anticipate in tenant communication, and how can facilities prepare to address those changes?
Gosh, how can you even keep up with the future trends? It's happening so fast now. There were a couple of things said earlier, Iris, that I think warrant maybe a little follow-up on where I see things going, and that is the language barrier. I invested in a pair of earbuds. They will translate in real time up to 140 something languages, and I see. Oh yeah, and they're commonplace. There's several companies making them right now. I actually just got them, so I can't give you a review just yet. However, I see our cell phones picking up our natural language from our first 2 or 3 words and immediately real-time translating if there is a language barrier. That's what I see coming, and I see that in a matter of months. The technology's here where we can now listen in real time to other languages and it translates. Why isn't it on the phone yet? I think that's coming. We'll see that in a matter of months, where I'll be able to speak to someone who doesn't speak a lick of English, and the phone will know I'm speaking English and they're speaking German, and it will just translate automatically. I see that coming very quickly, and that's going to be huge, right? For everything in life, not just our industry.
That's amazing. Garrett asked if you can tell us the name of the product that you purchased.
These are called True Wireless earphones. I think they're like $65. They come with they play music, by the way, and do everything else. But they come with a subscription, and I haven't even signed up for it yet. Again, I just got it. I think it's $5 or $6 a month for the service, but it will, in a matter of seconds, it will pick up the language. You have to program it in your phone to Bluetooth it to it, but it'll pick up the languages and translate it in real time. You see commercials for it now. They're all starting to come out. Amazon, several brands out there.
So now
my process brain is going insane. I'm like, do that with an agent so that they're translated back.
I'm telling you, that technology's here. Why won't the phones automatically know that I'm speaking English and you're speaking something else, and just facilitate that for us?
Yeah, I bet before you know it, there will probably be an app for that. If there isn't already.
We're reverse engineering Star Trek at this point. Like
Yeah.
they imagined it, we can do it.
Absolutely. But keeping it to like here and now, I think a lot of the industry is still warming up to and embracing QR codes, and I think text messaging is very commonplace now. We have more requests for text messaging than we do for anything else. So that's the here and now. And again, speaking to the future, it's anyone's guess. But I do think the language barriers will be broken down in a matter of months.
That's awesome. Anyone else? 2025 is coming. Want to do a predictive technology trends? What's coming? What's hot?
I mean, Shannon touched on video earlier, and I think that's going to continue to be a big part of it. A tip for everybody, if you're using FaceTime or the Google phone, if you want to include everybody, no matter what phone they have, use WhatsApp, because it doesn't matter what kind of phone you have. You know, we learned that during the pandemic. We were FaceTiming rentals, showing people rentals through FaceTime on our cell phones.
Yeah.
So some of that will continue, but I think we're going to see more unmanned facilities with video connection to get you to a customer service rep.
Yeah.
Very good. Grace?
Yeah, I think definitely improving the text-based conversations is on our personal roadmap for 2025. I would love for it to look more like if y'all have interacted with Delta's chat, where it is a branded icon in like your chat window. I've seen some other companies leverage chat, but through the Messenger app. Excuse me. So just ways to improve, but also for us, because we manage 150 different locations in a variety of states, being able to scale this technology is really important for us. And so making sure that we're picking the right software so that it is easy to use, our sales center agents and our property team members can use it, and that it is logged in the CMS is a big piece of this, because we want to be able to see the whole experience that the customer is having instead of having to look in these different dashboards. So making sure that everything integrates well. Video is a huge piece as well. I mean, Chris mentioned unmanned locations. As the prominence of unmanned locations continues to grow, but the demand of performance of those unmanned locations is still the same as a manned location, we've got to get video in place, because I can't verify that you actually moved out without physically being there. I can't really troubleshoot the gate code or your gate issues without physically being there. I can't help you investigate that insurance claim without physically being there. So I think that video piece is going to help catapult unmanned locations performance even more in 2025.
Absolutely. Shannon, I'm going to leave you with the last question, and that is, what is the one piece of advice you give to facility operators looking to improve their phone-based customer service? I think I might know what you're going to say.
Well, I think I say it often enough that if you don't, then I need to say it more. But my very first thing, and it's crazy, but please answer the phone. You would be shocked how many times we reach out to our own clients, or we do secret shops or do things like that, and people, they just don't answer the phone. And somebody made the point earlier, I'm sorry I've forgotten who it was, but they said that the volume of phone calls is decreasing, and that is true. Like, we're seeing like calls per store are a little bit lower, and more automated methods obviously are higher and higher. But I will tell you, if someone has stopped what they're doing to take the time to pick up the phone and call you, I am begging you, please. Even if it's a bad call is better than not answering that phone. But then next to that, don't let there be a bad call. Make sure you've got people answering the phone who care and can help.
Absolutely. Okay, we did get one more question. We're a little over time, but maybe we can answer it very quickly. For Julie, how do you feel about AI responses to tenants?
We're using a little bit of that right now in our web chat. And we like it because the AI can be there when we're not. And we get an emailed dialogue of what was said and a review, and then we can reach out to the tenant. But we're doing it in small doses, just testing it.
I would just add to that, I'm not an AI expert, so somebody who's smarter than me, please fact check this. But I believe that open AI is when the computer crawls and creates the answer, compared to a closed AI model where you as the operator tell the chatbot what the answer is. So I would definitely recommend operators start with that closed AI model, or maybe even a semi-open. Again, there's varying levels of AI. I am not the AI expert, but I just know that I don't want incorrect information being shared.
Right.
Agreed.
So I'll just piggyback onto that. We currently use AI with our chatbot, and we will use AI for customer responses to thank a customer for a review. For example, if it's a positive review, if it's an overwhelmingly positive review, we may use AI to respond. Negative reviews, we want obviously human intervention because we want to know what the issue is and resolve it. So we are 100% focused on having manual responses to all negative reviews. And the other thing is Google actually monitors reviews, and it looks for AI reviews, and I believe will strip those out, and it will not help your relevancy through Google searches if you're using AI on the reviews, and it sniffs those out. So it's a little bit of a balancing act because it's still, and again, I'm also not an AI expert, so I won't be fact checking that, Grace. But that being said, I do know that using AI for automated responses could be frowned upon with Google and some of the other internet companies that are out there. So just keep that in mind. And again, I know enough to say it, but certainly can't dive into a conversation about it. That's not my realm, but I do know that it exists. But yeah, we use it strictly for positive responses.
That's a great idea. I was actually on vacation a couple of months ago, and I was chatting with some customer service people at the hotel, and a lady copied something from Chat GPT and forgot to take out the headline from Chat GPT. So I knew it was an automated response. So attention to detail is very important. I had to laugh and call her out on it because I couldn't help myself.
That's great.
And I was like, I use Chat GPT too, but you might want to watch that. And we are going, it's such an expansive, and it's definitely technology that everyone's going to be using. We'll definitely be doing a webinar just about AI sometime, probably in Q1 next year, because that is a webinar unto itself. I want to thank everyone for being here today. I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much. This is our last Self-Storage Unlocked through the 2024. We will be back on January 16th. Everybody will see that in the newsletter and on our social media. Please join us. Please follow us. And I hope you all have wonderful, safe holidays. I'm going to take you off screen and just put up one more video as we talk about, we mentioned AI, and I want to, bye Dave. Our mystery shopping just rolled out a new AI program. So I'm going to show a little video. We just finished it, so everybody can get a preview of what that looks like. And then we're going to sign off for the year. Have a great holiday, everyone.
As a business owner, you know how essential, clear, actionable insights are for improving customer-facing operations. And yet, feedback is often too broad, shallow, or incomplete. With our AI-powered mystery shopping, transform your audit process from reactive to proactive with real-time, in-depth data that goes beyond surface feedback. Our tailored system identifies your customer experience trends, which resolves issues before they impact business and refines customer engagement strategies, all within just minutes. Simply set your key performance indicators, then let our AI do the rest. Whether you're looking at improving your customer service, sales, or employee performance, you'll get feedback that is not only thorough, but personalized to each of your customers' experiences. Our buildable and customizable packages provide evaluations from foundational to growth-focused insights as your needs grow. Here's how it works. We'll use the high-quality video and audio captured during mystery shops we complete, like this one.
Hello. How's it going? Good. Good. Coming to take a peek at the mouse? Yeah. Okay. Looking to buy a house, build a house, whatever. Excellent. I want a house. You want a house? We build them, so you're in the right place. Okay. What you got, Troy? Les. Steve. Nice to meet you. Steve. So, first on the model I take it, Les. Yeah, right. How'd you learn about us? Saw the signs, one of the many here. Sure, yeah.
Our detail-focused AI will analyze the recording, combing through the interactions for markers based on your specified standards.
You started with a friendly greeting. That's a good start. To enhance this, try weaving in more personal engagement. For example, when the customer mentioned seeing signs and passing through, you could have shared a light, related anecdote or inquired about their experience with other builders, deepening your connection.
Along with the AI-generated video, anyone who needs it will receive a tailored written summary, a score sheet, and an action plan, breaking down the entire interaction to help drive improvement, understanding, and consistency. Elevate your business insights with SBOA's AI-powered mystery shopping. Schedule a demo today and go from in the dark to in the know.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great time.
If I were you, let's say you have 5 properties and you realize, look, I can't staff enough property managers to cover all my hours and not miss opportunities I'm probably going to have in the market. I can't staff enough people to keep all of my tenants happy all the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build my own business development process here for my properties. I'm going to hire, 2, 3, 4 people to cover 100 plus hours a week to make sure we're there for them. I'm going to train them. I'm going to write software to be able to talk to my site management system. I'm going to record calls and do quality assurance on them. I'm going to drive my promotional special. I'm going to do all this here in my central office. If I'm you, the very first thing, once I understood the value of that concept, I would look for somebody to do it for me instead of me doing it myself, because I could never make that a profitable venture. It would never pencil. That's why this company exists. We solve that problem. We are your national sales center.